Well, good evening guys, and welcome to this evening's vlog. Today I am basically on my Jack Jones. Paul has had some sort of medical appointments to attend to in Oxford, so he's recuperating at home as we speak. We all wish him well, and we'll catch up with him again next week. Anyway guys, this week I find myself close to home. This is where I was born and brought up. This is Bletchley, back end of the Lakes Estate, at a place called Waterhall Park. We will travel from here up to Fenny, Stratford, go through Fenny, Stratford into part of the top end of Bletchley, just to tell you basically an urban legend which comes along with a ghost. The story I believe to be true. I know some of the implications of the story itself. It's quite intriguing really, to be honest with you, the events that unfolded. But anyway, I'll get to that a bit further later as I tell you the story, but let's get to that point first. Let's do this. Right, as we make our way along this avenue, I don't know, are they ash trees? I know they all stand probably somewhere in a region of maybe 45, 50 foot tall. This is a place I find solace. I come down here and speak to my sister, who sadly passed in January the 6th in fact, and it's got them vibes, the trees overhanging the long avenues like the stairway to heaven, etc. But I thought it's a good way to start, so I could turn around and tell you some of my beliefs. I'm not at all religious, never have been, never have the inkling to ever be so. My theory and thoughts behind all of this is obviously, as you know, what happened with my sister. She died of cancer after a 7-year battle, and we were very close. So coming down here, even though it's dark, I've come down here many times during the day, never like this before, and just to feel that chill on the back of your neck, the breeze, the rustling of the trees, it just feels as if Debs is around us. I know that might come hard across to some of you who don't quite believe, but the fact behind it all is, there's a down tree here, is that all of us believe in different things. I mean, someone turn around and say the likes of Christmas, Santa, etc. They don't believe in it, but it's an ideology. It's the fact that someone takes over each year, the giving, and just the general nature of that, whereas religion, I don't know, I've always been uncomfortable. That was quite surreal, just a guy in total darkness by himself out here sitting on a bench. But then again, people can say the same about me. Yeah, it's weird when you talk about beliefs and what people believe in, etc. Mine are very untraditional, I guess. Maybe they are, maybe other people think the same. My beliefs are that basically when we pass, it's like we all join up and have a party in the sky sort of thing. Our loved ones are waiting for us, but there is no religious intent there. There's nothing to turn around and say you believe in this God, that God, etc. Very much reminiscent of the scene with the old lady in the Titanic movie, where she falls asleep, she sadly passes, and everyone is waiting for her back on the Titanic ship. This really has got some eerie vibes though, as the trees turn and you get an avenue, just a long short corridor. It feels like no way out either side. You're trapped in here, and without this torch it is total darkness. You can see a glimmer of light from the lamppost to the left hand side, but that is pretty much it. I have seen one creature run across the path already. I'd say the way it moved, it was probably a cat. A lot of my views, thoughts, etc. around any religion. It's not that I'm not out there to have a pop at anyone. It was a Ricky Gervais film called The Invention of Lying, and it was basically someone turned around and said at the spur of the moment that they spoke to the man in the sky to give comfort to someone who was about to pass. And maybe that's the same with my thoughts of, maybe, I suppose they reckon it's a good 88% of the population believe in the afterlife, etc. Many more probably believe in some form of religion or other, but it's just that I think it's a comforting thing. I don't know whether it's probably dangerous ground, should we say, to even go into and talk about these sort of things, because people are heavily into it, and obviously I don't want to offend those. Your beliefs are your beliefs. My beliefs are that my sister frequents this area in the trees, but it's not only this area, there's a couple of areas, so how can that be? You get more definition of the avenue of trees down here. I said it just goes on for about 2 miles, and if you stop and look straight up, they start the kind of overhang. I keep hearing movement. I said it's going to be wildlife for sure. At least you only hope it is when you pan round from these trees. And yeah, the only soul down here, you're hearing steps, rustles in the bushes, etc. And it certainly puts you on edge. Luckily enough, we've only got to get to the top bit up here, hook a left, and then make our way up into Fenny that way, because continuing on this path, it's so heavily flooded in places that it'd just be unsafe. But yeah, could you do this? Would you do this? Why would you want to do this? I guess it's just a different kind of adrenaline. And that sky up there looks as if we could get some sort of fog later. Shows you pretty much where we are. Water Eaton to our left, Grand Union Canal Walk to the rear of us, which would take you to Leighton Buzzard. And if you carry on down that way, which we're not going to, we're going to head off over this bridge and through the side of housing estates, head off down that way. That will take you to Fenny, Stratford. We have some seriously old houses in the area. That one there that you can see just in front of me as I walk backwards so you can get it in the view, that is 1776. Before vehicles, before a lot of the technology that we take for granted nowadays. These are proper Tudor buildings. And this is deepest, darkest Bletchley. Basically in front of me to the left is the Lakes Estate. Now no one would have thought they'd have something so, should we just say, pretty in the area. But it's all part of it. The house over there to the left, that is an old converted Wesleyan chapel. Sort of the kind of thing, if you've seen some of the vlogs where we've gone up into the woods, that is what it would have looked like in its heyday. Now it's just ruins and haunted up in the Millbrook area. Well guys, welcome to Fenny, Stratford in its full Christmas bloom. I believe we've got something like 34 days before the big day itself. But we're not here to talk about festivities. So we'll get on with the story shortly. I just wanted to show you, as you people out there do love, the morbid factor. One church and two graveyards, or cemeteries should we say. Walking parallel now with St Martin's Parish Church. We have a look in the cemetery area there. But I'll just give you a perspective, a point of view of where we are. This is the old A5 Watling Street, the old Roman road. Significance about this road is approximately 1/4 of a mile down to your left, down this road here, there's an old farm. In the field of that farm, they found the oldest gold coin ever to be found in Great Britain from the Roman era, and years later they found 2 hoards of coins there. Okay, we're in amongst the tombs, the cemetery. A lot of these have seen better days. As recently as a couple of years ago, a car come clattering over. You see where the wall's different there, come clattering over and ploughed into a few of the graves. Probably someone drunk. But there's not a huge amount here. The significance being is most of the people that would have died probably would have had their service here and then buried in a cemetery that we're going to go to after this, after we've taken a short diversion. They're just peculiar the way they are. Someone's old tomb. Unfortunately got no vine creepers on it. That's what really adds it for me. The church itself, I step back. It's got the castle turret style of walls. And you do not see that every day. That is an exposed grave. I don't think it's vandalism at all. I think it's more a case of the concrete used in the manufacture is not the same standard that you'd have in buildings, etc. It never needs to be. But yeah, that has collapsed in on itself. So just beneath that there will be probably nothing much left of the casket now, and probably not much left of the body. The soil would have been discoloured to maybe a grey colour, where the fluids of the body would have seeped out, and the body itself, partial remains perhaps of the skull, maybe the femur, tibia, collarbone, everything else would have just gone into dust. But yeah, what a weird one. I've never seen a grave in that condition in a churchyard. In a cemetery, yeah, but not in a churchyard that should have its upkeep. Unless of course you can see from the cracks here it's subsidence that done it. Kind of wonderful intervention over there with that restaurant with a tuk-tuk on top. The old Pollard's building over there, lay dormant for must be what, a decade easily, if not longer. There is a Pollard's here, but it's not the same guys who run that. That was something special over there, especially around Christmas time. You go in there, get a warm mince pie. This is George Street, named after a guy called George, or why ever else not. Well, the story behind him is he was a lovable local guy who got killed in a car crash on Victoria Road, and they named this road after him. Well, what is weird is that this building here, why would anyone want to live in that? That used to be public toilets back in the day. And behind that, even more bizarre, that was a morgue many moons ago. But again, has nothing to do with our story. You know how I like to give you guys some information, a focal point, somewhere to verify the sort of stuff that I'm coming out to prove this not all gibberish, and that I do my homework, I know the area where I live, etc. Well, there's a significant plaque up Denmark Street that anyone who has an interest in automation should I say, vehicles, etc., of any sort of form, there is a significant plaque right at the end of this street opposite what used to be a pub called the Foundry. It should be coming into view very soon, but I'll talk about it. Basically, this is the precise spot where the first ever diesel engine in the entire world was produced. Seems quite strange to actually turn around and say that somewhere just so people might say as insignificant as Fenny, Stratford, but on this corner here there should be a plaque that proves that exact point. The first heavy oil engine, which is of course known as a diesel, was made here. Let's walk up to it, see if it still remains. Otherwise I'm going to look pretty foolish. Here we go. I speak the truth, I tell you no lies. There we go, the first ever diesel engine made on this spot. Very old society there, some say very secretive, but of course it is the Freemasons. Anybody of course can join them. I think it's something like £200 a year. What you get out of that, I don't know. There you go, if you're interested in becoming a Freemason. Okay, on to the last cemetery, and then I should tell you the ghostly urban legend that has so many elements of truth to it that even that can become unbelievable, but it is all true. Okay guys, welcome to the eerie Manor Road Cemetery. A lot of these graves, again, like the kind of ones that we would generally look at, go back a good couple of hundred years. There's probably many significant names of people that have fallen, some in conflict, some just general members of the public that are laid to rest here. There used to actually be two chapels here. This chapel was for those of faith, and there was another chapel which would have sat somewhere in that sort of area over there for those who followed no faith whatsoever, and that was a chapel of rest before their burial. Nowadays it's much more common to find people being cremated, which I kind of get. This has been boarded up for so long now. There is no access, no entry. Don't even think about going in. It has security points. There are cameras mounted on the corners. But it just adds to the eerie vibes. The old bell tower up there. You can actually see the bell still in it. How cool is that? Well, I dare say you'll probably find bats up there in the belfry, as well as possibly owls, but certainly pigeons, because I can see a couple right there. But I'm actually quite shocked that the bell still remains. Of course, utmost respect to those who do lay to rest here. They would have had, possibly still do have, family members about, and it's not the intention to offend at all. But in a way, it's like saying a friendly hello to them as you walk round. Old oil lamp there. Some of the graves again unkempt. You know, I find it significant when you see a tree that has snapped the grave in half and has taken root, like nature has found a way. But the sole purpose of this is just to add those little vibes that you need before I go into telling a story. Because the story itself comes from that park beyond the trees there. Most of you are probably thinking, what on earth is he on about now? Well, I didn't just read up on it. It's an urban legend I've known of for many years. My father had spoken about it years ago. My sister had. And general population, there are some out there that know the story, the significance of what happened and the consequences of what happened because of that. So let's leave these people in peace. We wish you all well, and go and find somewhere to tell our tale. Okay guys, this comes across as being a good enough spot as any. Our story doesn't start here. This is where the ghost, the apparition, is supposed to appear. Probably not so much nowadays, because the area has changed so many times over the last 5 decades that it would be unrecognisable to what it once was. But anyway, it goes back to a time of 1973. The events come from a film actually in 1971, but I'll get to that a bit later. The guy in question, who is our ghost, our urban legend, is a guy called David McManus. He was a vagrant, a tramp. Sorry about the way that's sort of pronounced. It's just, they were the terms used back in those days for someone who was down on their luck and living rough on the streets, etc. Now he, sadly, was murdered by a 16-year-old around here. He was kicked to death. People said it was about a robbery. The kid got away with like £1, not £1, 1.5 pence. But the significance is that they turn around and says he was influenced by a film. That film being A Clockwork Orange, which came out in 1971, Stanley Kubrick film. Now, because of the murder, the film was consequently banned in the whole of the UK for release for 3 decades. And it is believed that the spirit, the ghost of David McManus, is supposed to sit here on benches. We'll see. It is said that the spirit of McManus, obviously he used to frequent these benches, but I said they've changed so much. He would sit here and he would point in the direction of the cinema as a warning to those who would try and repeat maybe a copycat crime later on in life. The cinema was knocked down in 1989, I believe it was. The old Bletchley cinema, which was adjacent to Captain Ridley's shooting party as it now was. Then it was the Bletchley Arms, owned by one Johnny Kincaid, who was a wrestler back in the 70s and 80s. And before that he owned the Bow Bells on the Lakes Estate, which is where I live. And the Captain Ridley shooting party itself, which is all to do with Bletchley Park, has its own ghost, which some people turned around and said that Bletchley Park might not have even happened because of the fear that people had of that. But that is a story for another time. It's just really weird that this urban legend come about, and he's supposed to sit around here. He doesn't say a word. He sits on a bench. People just turn around, having a drink, eating. It could be during the day, even a foggy day, foggy morning. Turn around, see this guy. He would just point. You'd look with the direction he was pointing, turn back, and he'd be gone. and that was the end of that. And that is our urban legend. And people turn and say, what are you talking about? Well, you know what, check it out. Look up on Google, look at Clockwork Orange, the history on Wikipedia, etc. Look at the murder. I've not gone into details of the person who committed the crime, who has been His Majesty's pleasure now for the best part of 50 years, and will probably never be let out. But yeah, I'm not going to give them notoriety by naming them, but it's the guy himself that I just think, you know what, it's strange, peculiar, bizarre, fits the channel, fits the dark niche area that we're doing at the moment. And with that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. Bit strange coming out with Paul, bit eerie as well when you're by yourself in these dark places. You don't know who's about, don't know who's with you. I've just got me camera, me torch. I've done probably about 3.5–4 miles walking. You can just about sort of see the breath now as I talk. It's starting to get a bit of a chill in the air. The camera reflects and gives me a ghostly expression. It's myself, but that's another matter. And with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I believe next week me and Paul are back together, and believe it or not, we are bringing to you, hard to present the facts, but an actual tale of a werewolf. Before you all turn off and think, yeah, you're complete nuts. I'll break down and turn around and tell you how it come about, why people believed it was, and so on. And you can make your own mind up on that, but it's got certain elements of truth about it. We're not turning around and saying there's a guy going around howling at the moon, although there is a significant person involved who did turn around and howl, but that's just because he was a complete nutter, and we're talking about a few hundred years ago anyway. So with that, guys, that'll give you something to ponder and think about. What the heck are they up to now? That will come to you from Stanton Low probably next Tuesday, depending on the weather. If it hammers it down, we're not going through a boggy field to an old desolate derelict church to tell you that story. We'll find another story. But if the conditions are perfect for it, especially if it's got a bit of fog or a bit of coldness so you can see your breath in it, it just adds to it. There is an old church there, there's a few graves. I bring the story to you, and then you make your mind up, and that's what it's all about. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've babbled on so much about pretty much nothing, but yeah, look it up, see what you think, see what you make of the story. There is so many truths out there, and as you've seen, I don't just make things up. There are plaques depicted when I'm going around to try and bring you the information for you to make your own conclusions. I'll see you in the movies, guys. Just to verify, that's Captain Ridley's shooting party, which is now a Weatherspoons, which was the Bletchley Arms, and the building that's next to it, that was not there originally. That was Bletchley Cinema, where David McManus would point from the park, Leon Recreational Park, where we've just sat. This would be the direction to be pointing in.